Okay, so to make this look a little bit better, one of the things that we can do is add some padding. We've got padding around the UL, and I think one of the first things I'll probably do is I think we had added that in a percentage. If we want to keep this in such a way that it'll be really consistent regardless of the scale, we could either do it in ems or in pixels. Just to be succinct, let's go ahead and just do it in pixels. So here we've got padding and we've got it at 1%. Let's just say that we want to do like, I don't know, like 4 pixels of padding. And then you can see that it ends up being kind of thin. And I might like that a little bit better. I don't know. It's really up to you how you want to do it. The other thing that we can do now is add padding in between each of these elements, and that might also help with some of this where you end up getting like a little bit of a weird gap in between, like I showed you before. Like you see it maybe happening right here. If I blow it up, it'll go away, but in between these two, you see a really thin gap. So some of that won't be as obvious whenever we have padding on it. And it might also just look nicer too in terms of separating the images so they become their own. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this width that's on the LI. And I'm going to add padding to the LI. Let's go ahead and add padding. And let's add maybe 4 pixels of padding, and that means it'll go all the way around. All right, so far that looks kind of nice actually, right? Uh, and if we do this though, you'll see that it's got this weird outline. Well, what that is, if you think about it, is that it's the overlay. Remember, the overlay is a position absolute, and so as a result, it's behaving on its own, right? It's got its own scale and its own everything, right? It doesn't have that padding. So you might say, oh, well, let's just add some padding to that. We've got a padding here of 0, so let's add 4 pixels to that and see what happens. Well, and you see it doesn't really do anything. It's not really affecting it. And so what we need to do is make some changes with offsets, as well as adjusting the width and height. So I'm going to undo what I just did. All right, let's keep it at padding 0 for right now. And if you think about it, if we were to, and remember that this is behaving very differently because it is position absolute, so we have to treat it a little differently. So instead of the width being 100%, one of the things that we could think about is that it's 100% minus whatever the other padding was on that list item so that it will match up. And you might look at this and go, wait, that's in percentage and the thing you just did was in pixels. How do I remedy that? I don't know how to deal with that. Well, there's this thing that you can do that's kind of cool, and it's called Calc, C-A-L-C, and it's where you can do a calculation in order to mix and match units of measure, right? And so if we wanted to say that the width of the overlay is 100% minus 8 pixels and the height is 100% minus 8 pixels, then it would give us the right size. Now, you might say, why 8 pixels when the padding is 4? If you think of left and right, there's 4 pixels on the left and 4 pixels on the right. That's 8 pixels side to side total for the width. And then if there's 4 pixels on the top and 4 pixels on the bottom, you add those together, that's 8 pixels vertically for the height. Okay, so what I can do here is I can say calc, and then in parentheses, what I would need to do is say 100%, and then I have to put a space and then a minus symbol and then another space. You can't just run them all together. Not all browsers will read it properly. And then you would have to say minus 8px, okay? And then now if I hover, you see that it looks like it's wrong. You're like, wait, now it's just like weird. Well, it's actually the right width, but the problem is that we have to fix the position and the offsets, right? Because now we're still saying that it's top 0 and left 0, right? So we need to tell it that that it's going to be left is 4 pixels because that's what the left padding was. And then if I go over here and I hover it, now you see that the width is actually correct. All right, and then if I do the calc it the same way, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to change the height to be exactly the same. All right, and so now we just need to fix the offset again. So let's go fix the offset. and we'll say that the top is also 4 pixels, okay? And then you should see that it's a good overlay and it looks like it's working, all right? And if you want to zoom in to make sure that it's doing the calculation correctly, you can see that it is, all right? So I can zoom back out, and then now my hover looks right, and it's going to be true on all of them, all right? And so now that padding looks really nice. It's working really well. All right, so that's what you would have to do for that overlay of position absolute, is you have to do a little bit of monkeying around with the width and the height, and then you have to adjust the offsets so that it will match up properly. You can't just adjust padding or something like that. It doesn't work. And you don't want to mess around with margins. It's the offsets that you want to adjust, and then it'll be perfect. Okay, and so that's pretty much it for this. The only other thing that you might want to figure out how to do is if you wanted multiple galleries on a page. The problem is that some of our rules, you'll notice, are dependent upon the list item being inside of gallery as an ID. But the problem with that is that then we'd have to go and rewrite all of these rules again, or at least make them grouped rules or something, if we wanted these to all be applicable to other things that had different IDs. So in the next video, I'll show you how, if you want to continue forward with that, how you can adjust this so that you can change everything into classes.